broadcasting from Hanoi, capital of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam.
Welcome to DOB. I'm Cẩm Thi. In today's program, after the news, current affairs will comment on Vietnam's key task, building and perfecting the law-governed socialist state. Our economy segments will look at the post-pandemic economic recovery in Ho Chi Minh City. And this week, Discovery Vietnam will introduce Lai Châu, an attractive destination in the northwest region. First, here's the news.
In the news headlines, Vietnam pledges to strengthen efforts and promote dialogue to contribute to peace and prosperity in Asia. The U.S. congratulates Vietnam on election to the UN Human Rights Council, and France urges Russia to return to negotiations with Ukraine. Now for the news in detail. President Wilson Phúc on Thursday attended the new school opening ceremony at the Ho Chi Minh City National University. In his address, the president congratulated the university for being ranked as one of the world's 1,200 best universities. The president said the university is among leading universities in promoting innovation. He stressed the need to develop Ho Chi Minh City National University urban area into a modern, smart university urban area, which will also comprise startup and innovation centers, and have a close link with the innovative urban area in east of Ho Chi Minh City. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính met nearly 800 voters in the Mekong Delta city of Cần Thơ, during which he answered questions and requests regarding various areas. After listening to a report on the planned agenda of the National Assembly's fourth session and the operations of the National Assembly delegation of deputies in the first 9 months of this year, voters showed their delight at positive outcomes of the COVID fight as well as socio-economic recovery and development. The Prime Minister asked relevant agencies to respond to proposals and requests of the voters in line with their authority and responsibility. He asked for the resolute actions by the whole political system, businesses and people to make Cần Thơ City a nuclear urban area in the Mekong River Delta and Asia. He said the government will work closely with local administration and people to help the city achieve the set target. Vice President Võ Thị Ánh Xuân has participated in the 6th summit of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures in Asia. Addressing the meeting, the Vice President called for cooperative and responsible actions for peace and stability in compliance with the UN Charter and international law, especially the principle of respecting national sovereignty and territorial integrity of countries, settling disputes by peaceful means while not using force or threatening to use force. The conference should actively navigate Asia's new transition for rapid, sustainable and inclusive development after the pandemic. The Vice President spoke about Vietnam's efforts to help build trust in Asia.
Vietnam is willing to join every dialogue effort and coordinate actions for trust building between countries, for peace and easing the conflicts and disputes, while contributing proactively to CCAR operation for an Asia of peace and prosperity.
The 12th ASEAN Education Ministers meeting, which opened in Hanoi on Thursday, is a special event held during Vietnam's tenure as chairman of the ASEAN Education for 2022-2023. Deputy Prime Minister Vũ Đức Đam told the meeting.
Thông qua hội nghị này và cùng với những ưu tiên trong nhiệm kỳ Việt Nam được vinh dự làm chủ tịch.
With priorities set out during Vietnam's tenure as chairman of ASEAN Education, I believe that ASEAN's education ministers will build effective policies to promote educational continuity. In the long term, each ASEAN nation will develop a flexible and resilient educational system to respond to challenges.
Delegates will share experience in reopening schools after the pandemic and review the ASEAN work plan on education. Minister of Education Training Nguyễn Kim Sơ will chair the 6th ASEAN Plus 3 Education Ministers meeting and the 6th East Asia Summit Education Ministers meeting on Friday. U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs Daniel Christian Brink congratulated Vietnam on being elected to the UN Human Rights Council for the 2023-2025 tenure. He told the Vietnamese press in Hanoi on Wednesday.
We do congratulate Vietnam on its election to the Human Rights Council. And we hope and expect that while Vietnam is an important member of the Human Rights Council, that Vietnam will be a partner together with us in advancing universal human rights. As a leading and responsible member of the international community, we expect Vietnam to live up to its obligations regarding its international human rights commitment. And we hope that Vietnam will be our partner in addressing some of the severe human rights challenges and violations that we see taking place internationally today. Human rights continue to be a central pillar of American foreign policy. I had the opportunity to discuss issues related to human rights while I was here in Hanoi on this trip. I would say our conversation was candid but respectful, and we're looking forward to the U.S.-Vietnam Human Rights Dialogue, which I believe will be held next month.
The Japan International Cooperation Agency in Vietnam will continue to provide ODA and other technical cooperation projects for Vietnam in priority areas, including infrastructure, human resources, healthcare, and carbon neutrality. Chief Representative of JICA Vietnam Office, Shimizu Akira, was speaking in Hanoi on Wednesday.
Vietnam has to date maintained a stable economic growth rate, but the driving force behind its growth rate is expansion of exports and direct investment. For a stable society, high-quality human resources and infrastructure development are indispensable factors. ODA will continue to play an important role in infrastructure development, the growth engine of Vietnam.
As part of its global health initiative, JICA continues to establish a system of distance training for grassroots healthcare and improve medical techniques through digital transformation.
Next on VOV, here's the world news. French President Emmanuel Macron urged his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin to return to the negotiating table to find a peaceful solution and end the conflict in Ukraine. Speaking on France 2 television on Wednesday, President Macron said he gives the suggestion to avoid the risk of a global conflict. The readiness for dialogue is essential for the future, said President Macron. He is confident that Ukraine will return to the negotiating table at an appropriate time. Russian President Vladimir Putin said Russia is willing to resume gas supply to the EU in the autumn and winter via the intact branch of the Nord Stream 2 pipelines. The damaged branch of the Nord Stream pipelines can be repaired, but only if repaired crews can continue to work and be protected, Putin said at the 5th Russian Energy Week International Forum held in Moscow on Wednesday. Putin called the damage to Nord Stream 1 and 2 an act of international terrorism, which aimed at undermining the energy security of the entire continent and severing ties between Russia and the EU. Finance leaders from the Group of 7 wealthy democracies on Wednesday pledged to increase emissions reductions efforts and climate support for developing countries, despite energy costs and security challenges prompted by the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Meeting on the sidelines of the International Monetary Fund and World Bank annual meetings in Washington, the G7 finance ministers and central bank governors reaffirmed in a statement their commitment to achieving net zero emissions goals by 2050. The officials said the Russia-Ukraine conflict has caused substantial increases in energy and food prices and was severely impacting energy markets and supplies globally. They pledged to intensify efforts to meet climate goals, including an accelerated, clean, just, and sustainable energy transition that also strengthens energy security.
Turn the news, the main points once again. Vietnam pledges to strengthen efforts and promote dialogue to contribute to peace and prosperity in Asia. The U.S. congratulates Vietnam on election to the UN Human Rights Council. And France urges Russia to return to negotiations with Ukraine. That's the news.